I want you to picture a little boy. He is 5 years old. He scrapes his knee on the playground, and the blood starts to trickle down his leg. His face crumbles, tears well up in his eyes, and his instinct is to cry out for comfort. But before the first sob can escape his throat, he hears a voice. Maybe it is a parent, a coach, or an older brother. The voice says, "Man up, don't be such a crybaby. You are fine. Tough it out." Those words seem small in the moment, but imagine hearing them 1,000 times. Imagine hearing them until they are no longer coming from the outside, but are playing on a loop inside your own head. Man up. Don't feel. Don't break. Many men grow up hearing these commands until they start to believe every single one. They learn to stay quiet. They bury the stress, the fear, and the loneliness deep in the basement of their souls, thinking it will fade with time or maybe with a good night of sleep. They smile through the pain because they need to seem normal. They need to seem dependable. But one day, it is no longer just stress you can sleep off. It is something deeper. It is something heavier that has been there all along, growing in the dark. And that silence, that is where the real damage begins. This is the truth about men's depression that no one talks about. It is not always weeping in a dark room. It is often working 60 hours a week. It is often rage. It is often silence. So, let us uncover the quiet truths about men's depression, how it hides behind strength, work, and silence, and what it really means to heal. Truth number 1 is the oldest lie in the book, the idea that men should be strong, not emotional. From an early age, men are conditioned to believe that emotions are the opposite of strength. They learn to stay composed no matter what is breaking inside. We live in a world where anger is often the only acceptable emotion for a man to display. If he yells, he is passionate or authoritative. But if he cries, if he admits he is scared, that is labeled as weakness. When everything feels overwhelming, a man is taught to label it as stress. When emptiness creeps in and the world feels gray, he calls it fatigue. He will call it anything but what it really is, hurt, because showing pain feels like failure. It feels like a betrayal of his gender. But here is the happy aura truth. Strength is not what hides emotion. Strength is what survives it. Sometimes, the absolute strongest thing a man can do is stand tall, look someone in the eye, and say, "I am not okay right now." That is not weakness. That is courage. Truth number 2 is that depression does not always look sad. If you are waiting for the men in your life to look like the commercials for antidepressants, staring out a rainy window looking miserable, you might miss the signs entirely. Sometimes, depression just looks like going through the motions. We have this concept called high-functioning depression. Many men still wake up when the alarm goes off. They shower, they put on the suit or the uniform, they go to work, they laugh at the jokes during the lunch meeting, and they keep their lives running like clockwork. From the outside, they seem fine. They might even seem successful, driven, and on top of the world. But inside, everything feels muted. Imagine watching your favorite movie, but the color has been turned down until it is just gray, and the volume is so low you can barely hear the dialogue. That is what high-functioning depression feels like. You start existing instead of living. Every day feels like a carbon copy of the last. You are checking the boxes, but you do not feel the satisfaction of the checkmark. You can look fine and still be fading away inside, because being functional does not mean being healed. Truth number 3 tackles the myth of the lone wolf, the idea that real men do not need help. This is a dangerous script. Many men grow up believing that they are the fixers. They fix the car, they fix the house, they fix the problems of the family. Therefore, they should be able to fix their own minds. They tell themselves to handle it, to push through, instead of reaching out. But time does not heal what you refuse to face. If you walked around on a broken leg for 6 months, saying, "I can handle it," you would not be strong. You would be permanently damaging your body. The mind is no different. But the fear of being judged, or the fear of being pitied, makes silence feel safer than honesty. You tell yourself, if I tell them I am struggling, they will lose respect for me. Please hear me when I say this. You are not broken for needing help. You are human. Biology does not care about your gender, and silence does not protect you. It just keeps you stuck in the mud. Asking for help is not losing control. It is actually the ultimate act of taking control back from the darkness. Truth number 4 is one we see constantly in our hustle culture. The belief that depression only happens to the weak or the lazy. A lot of men dismiss their own pain because they are still functioning. They think, I cannot be depressed. I just worked a 50-hour week. I just painted the garage. I am active. But functioning is not the same as living. Sometimes, keeping busy is just another sophisticated way to outrun the ghosts inside your head. We call this flight into activity. You hit every goal, you meet every deadline, you volunteer for overtime, but the satisfaction never comes. You are running on a treadmill that never stops. Sometimes, the hardest workers are the ones most afraid to stop, because they are terrified of what will happen in the quiet moments. They are afraid that if they stop moving, the sadness will catch up to them. Success does not always mean you are okay. Sometimes, it just means you have learned how to monetize your trauma and hide your pain behind a paycheck. Truth number 5 is the toxic positivity trap. You can just snap out of it. How many times have men heard, just think positive, be grateful. Look at everything you have. You have a good job, a healthy family, a nice truck. What do you have to be depressed about? That is what people say, and tragically, it is often what men tell themselves. So they try. They really do try. They get up early. They go to the gym and lift heavy weights. force a smile. They pretend the noise inside is just temporary stress. But the weight does not move. No matter how hard they try to outthink it or outwork it, it sits there heavy, quiet, and unshakable. When trying harder does not work, the guilt creeps in. The internal monologue becomes cruel. Why can't I just be happy? What is wrong with me? I am ungrateful. No one talks about how heavy that specific type of guilt is. But you cannot force light into a room by shouting at the dark. Depression is not a choice. It is not a flaw in your character. It is not laziness. It is just your mind asking for care, not commands. It needs compassion, not a boot camp. Truth number 6 is perhaps the most misunderstood symptom of all. Anger is often depression in disguise. We tend to think of depression as weeping, low energy, and staying in bed. But in men, depression frequently manifests as irritability, frustration, and rage. It looks like snapping at your partner over a dish left in the sink. It looks like unbearable road rage because a car cut you off. It looks like feeling restless, agitated, and ready to explode all the time. Why does this happen? Because for many men, anger feels safer than sadness. Anger feels powerful. Sadness feels vulnerable. Anger pushes people away, which protects you from being seen. Sadness invites people in, which feels dangerous. But underneath, that anger is often exhaustion. Underneath, the shouting is fear. Underneath, the rage is grief that never got a chance to breathe. Anger is not who you are. It is simply how your pain learned to survive in a world that told you not to cry. Anger is not the opposite of sadness. It is the bodyguard of sadness. Truth number 7 is the tragedy of the emotional vocabulary. Men do not talk about feelings because they were never taught the words. Many men were never shown how to navigate the landscape of their internal world. It is not that they do not want to connect. It is that they feel like they are trying to speak a foreign language without a dictionary. So, they joke instead of opening up. They use sarcasm as a shield. They distract themselves with video games, alcohol, or habits. They keep everything light, surface level, and never real. How are you? I am good, living the dream. That is the script. But feelings do not disappear when they are ignored. They wait. They are patient. And they always find their way out, usually in the form of a health crisis, a relationship breakdown, or a sudden collapse. Talking does not make the pain worse. It gives the pain somewhere to go. When you put words to your experience, you move it from the part of your brain that just feels terror to the part of your brain that can process and understand. Talking about what hurts is not weakness. It is how healing begins. We need to rewrite the definition of manhood for the 21st century. Depression does not make anyone less of a man. It does not erase your strength, your value, or your worth. It simply means you have been carrying too much for too long without setting it down. You do not have to unlearn strong. You just have to redefine what strength looks like. Maybe strength looks like calling a therapist. Maybe strength looks like telling your wife, I feel empty and I do not know why. Maybe strength looks like crying and realizing that the world did not end because you shed a tear. If you are a man watching this, and these words are resonating in your chest, I want you to know that you are not alone. There are millions of men fighting this same silent battle right now. But you do not have to fight it in the dark. Please reach out to a friend. Reach out to a professional. Reach out to anyone who will listen without judgment. And if you are a woman watching this, thinking of a husband, a father, a brother, or a son, approach them with gentleness. Do not push. Just create a safe space. Let them know that their worth is not tied to their productivity or their stoicism. Let them know that you see them, really see them, and that you love them even when they are not holding up the weight of the world. We have to stop telling boys to man up and start teaching them to open up. We have to stop praising men for suffering in silence and start praising them for speaking their truth. Silence has never saved anyone. It has never fixed a broken heart or a chemical imbalance. But honesty might just save a life. It is time to drop the mask. It is time to put down the heavy armor. You have carried it long enough. You are allowed to be human. You are allowed to hurt. And you are certainly allowed to heal. Thank you so much for listening to this message. It is a heavy one, I know, but it is so necessary. If this video spoke to you, please share it. Send it to the men in your life. Post it on your timeline. You never know who is scrolling through their phone right now, looking for a sign that it is okay to not be okay. Your share could be that sign. And if you are struggling right now, remember, help is always closer than you think. There is always a hand reaching back if you are brave enough to reach out. Until next time, take care of your happy aura, and please take care of each other.